Hi there, I'm Cath. Welcome to my channel made by Cath. Thank you very much for joining me for my latest episode of my midweek sewing chat. I think it's episode 9 now, so thank you very much for joining me again for another episode. And if you're new to my midweek sewing chat, I just basically pop on midweek and I share a little bit about what I'm wearing and any sewing projects I'm up to, and sometimes knitting projects too, and a little bit of general chat too. And I really enjoy doing these videos, and I've missed doing them the last couple of weeks. 2 weeks ago, instead of doing my midweek sewing chat, I released a different video midweek, which was talking about my plans for Sew Frugal, which is a challenge currently happening on YouTube and Instagram, and I'll talk a little bit more about it later in this video. And then last week I wasn't on with any midweek video at all because we were having a little bit of work done on our house. We basically had the doors to our kitchen cabinets replaced, which is really nice actually because our kitchen is quite old. We moved in about 8 years ago, I think, maybe coming up to 9 years. We knew the kitchen had been done when they had a little extension done at the back to add the kitchen, which is about 20 years before that. So the kitchen was coming up to about 30 years old. And actually the actual sort of carcasses of the cabinets absolutely fine, and we quite like the layout of the kitchen as it is. So we just had all the doors replaced because they were going all chipped and flaking around the edge, and some of them were getting to the point where you'd shut it and then you'd walk away and it just like opened itself up again. My husband had to play with the hinges and it's just getting to the point where there was nothing much more we could do with those doors, so we had them all replaced, which is really nice, and it does look a lot more fresh and modern now. But it did mean we had to get everything out of the kitchen and the utility room, so we had the kind of contents of it around the house, and I never knew how much stuff we'd had in the kitchen until you get it all out and see it sort of spread across your floor. And the children found it quite funny. It was almost like an obstacle course. It felt a bit like being on holiday where you can't remember where you've put anything, and you want to get something simple like a spoon and you're like, where have the spoons gone? But anyway, it was done quite quickly, and the guy's coming back today to do a final few finishing bits, but then it should all be done, which is nice. And one really nice thing about it actually is I had a proper clear out as part of it, and I've created a bit more space. So now I've got a cupboard to myself in the utility room, and I've put all my sewing stuff in there. So I thought I'd do a little video in a moment sharing with you my sewing cupboard and what I've got in there in case you're interested in that. But that's why I wasn't on last week, because there was too much disruption and noise and stuff everywhere for me to be able to do much sewing or talk about it. So anyway, I'm back this week and it's a bit more peaceful this morning, which is nice. It's actually quite an overcast morning, which is a shame because we've had some lovely sunny weather over the last few days. It was really nice. At the weekend we went out to a local theme park, had a lovely day out in the sun. So yeah, being back to overcast is a bit of a shame when it felt so much like spring was here, but it's not too cold today. So I'm wearing jeans and a handmade t-shirt, and this t-shirt is one I made quite a long time ago and I hadn't got out for quite a while, so I thought I'd pull it out this morning because I really enjoy wearing it, so I don't know why I haven't got it out for quite a while. But the pattern I made this t-shirt using is this one here. It is the Scout Tee pattern by Grainline Studio. It's quite a simple little t-shirt pattern for woven fabrics. It's got a slight scoop neck and the neckline's finished with bias binding, which I like. You can see here, I'll show you. It kind of creates quite a nice effect, I think, particularly on fabric that's slightly sheer. This is the bias binding on the inside. I've used the same fabric to make it. I think it comes with a pattern piece, so you can cut it out of the same fabric. And then it's got little cap sleeves and it's got quite a loose shape. There are no darts or anything. I've got the paper pattern which goes from size 0 to 18, but there's also a PDF download that is available in size 14 to 32, which I think takes the pattern up to a 58-inch bust. So it's quite a decent size range on this pattern. And the 14 to 32 range has bust darts, I guess, to give a little bit more shape around the area. But this one here is designed to be quite loose fitting, and it's just quite a nice, comfy, relaxed one to wear. And I think I often wear a jersey t-shirt type top, but sometimes it's quite nice to wear a woven top in a pretty fabric instead. And the fabric I made this top out of is a viscose fabric, and it's an older Atelier Brunette viscose print. I think it's called Tabby viscose or something like that. I might be wrong, but it's quite pretty. It's kind of like an off-white colour, and it's got these little flecks in like a sort of deep red and a teal colour and a sort of peachy colour. But yeah, it's quite a cute print, I think. And I'll put a picture up so you can see how it looks on. I think I made the smallest size, which is designed for bust 32 inches, waist 25 inches and hips 35 inches. But when you look at the finished garment measurements, which are also on the back of the envelope, that shows plenty of room. The finished garment measurement on the bust is 36.5 inches. And so although my waist and hips are slightly bigger than the size 0 that I used. Actually, there's loads of space, and it's quite nice, I think, with the viscose, because although it's quite roomy, it drapes quite nicely on your body. So yeah, it's quite a nice simple pattern with quite a pretty little silhouette, I think, with a slight scoop neck. And it's designed to be a beginner pattern. I think it's quite a good one to learn a couple of new skills, like setting in the sleeves, and also applying this, I think they call it bias facing, actually, because it's just on the inside. That was the first time I tried it on this pattern, and it came together really nicely. So yeah, it's just a nice simple little pattern, I think, the Scout tee. But that's what I'm wearing today, and now I'll move on to sharing what I've been up to on the sewing front. And I haven't had as much opportunity to sew with the kitchen stuff going on, but I have managed a few bits here and there, mostly in the evenings. My husband's been out a couple of evenings, so I've been sewing then, and I squeezed in a few bits. And the first thing I've been making is quite a simple, quick little project, which was to whip my son up a couple of new pairs of mini Hudson pants. He really loves the mini Hudson pants pattern by True Bias. It's a great little pattern for kids, for joggers. I think it comes in ages 2 to 10, and he's about to turn 9, so he should be getting towards the end of it, but he's still in a slightly smaller size, and I just kind of extend the legs. I think maybe he's getting to the point now where I do need to trace a larger size though, because he's definitely growing. So I think I made the size 7 still, and just extended the legs a little bit and then widened them slightly, rather than tracing out all the pattern pieces again. But I've made him 2 pairs in a sort of lightweight French terry from Minerva, because he likes them fairly lightweight. It does mean I think he wears through the knees a bit faster than if they're more substantial, but you just get too hot in something like a fleece back sweatshirt. But this is the first pair in a black French terry, with this sort of zingy green cord that he chose around the waist. He does like having a cord on there, the brighter the better, I guess. So I made that black pair, and then also this green pair with a blue cord around the waist. And I always use little eyelets and my Prim Vario pliers to apply the eyelets, so it's quite simple to get those on. But it's just a nice speedy pattern, comes together really nice and quickly. So he's pleased with those. And I made those because he had worn through the knees on his older pairs. They had holes in his knees. So I also, while I was sewing those, I got his older pairs out and I trimmed them off and I've turned them into shorts. So he's got now this pair here as the shorts, with this was kind of his Minecraft inspired pair with the little green and the sort of black pocket detail. And then he's also got this black pair here as shorts too. This is a more fleecy fabric. I think I made this out of leftovers I had from a pair of Hudson pants I made my mum. So they're a little bit thicker and heavier weight, but I'm hoping when they're shorts and they've got a bit of wind around them, they'll be fine. But it was nice to be able to repurpose them, still get some more wear out of them. And the bottoms I've chopped off will probably go in a Cosette Core poof somewhere to kind of restuff it, because I do find the poofs gradually bed down and need a bit more fabric to go in them to sort of, yeah, bring them back up again. So that's the first thing I've been doing, a little project for him. And I've also got 2 projects now that I've started on the go. For me, I often just work on one project at a time, but I think I was in the mood for cutting out, and I thought I'd capitalise on that, because I'm generally, cutting out isn't my favourite part of the project, so when I'm in the mood for it, I may as well cut out a couple of projects and do a little batch cut. And the 2 projects I'm working on for me, I talked about them both in my recent video, which was my spring fabric haul and sewing plans video, which I posted at the weekend, and I'll include a link above in case you haven't checked that out. But the first one I've got cut out is, just grabbing the pattern, excuse me, is this pattern here. It's the cuff top by the Assembly line. And I really like this pattern. I made a couple of versions of it. It's a nice pattern for a woven top with this sort of boat neck. It's got these oversized elastic cuffs and quite a sort of straight fit in the body. And then you can cut it with 2 sides and add a centre seam and one on the back too. There's the back. And I just think it's quite a nice one. And the oversized cuffs make it a bit of a different one to wear. And I am making mine out of some baby cord fabric that I was gifted by Minerva in exchange for a blog post. And I'll show you the fabric. I think it's a really pretty colour. It's this really lovely deep red colour, and it's quite a nice lightweight baby cord. I've already cut it out, as you can see. It's all in the cuff top shape. Yeah, it's got a little bit of drape to it, as you can see. It's not super sort of thick or anything like a thicker corduroy. So I thought it would be quite fun to give it a go making a top, because I've never made a top of any type of corduroy before. I thought it might be quite a nice pretty colour and make quite a nice sort of feature with the sort of velvety look of it. So I've got the pieces cut out. I spent a while umming and ahhing over whether I should just cut the pattern sort of with no sort of centre seam, or whether I should still keep the centre seam. I wasn't sure with the corduroy that better to keep it simple. But in the end I decided I would add the centre seam. So I cut 2 fronts and 2 backs, and I'm going to sew them together and do a bit of top stitching to add that kind of centre seam at the front and back. just because I thought it's a nice feature at the top, and I thought even in the corduroy it'll be quite nice to have that detail, otherwise it might be a bit plain. So I've got it all cut out. I made my usual adjustments I make for this top, which is to bring in the neckline slightly at the sides because it's quite wide, and if you bring it a little bit that means you can't see my bra straps. And I also dip the neckline at the front a little bit because when I had a look originally at making this pattern, it looked like it came up very high, and I'm not a big fan of too high a neckline, so I just dip it down slightly so it's still the boat neckline shape but doesn't come up quite as high. But I've got that all cut out now, but I haven't actually started sewing that. I'm hoping I'll maybe get to start that later this week. I'm looking forward to sewing. I enjoy sewing with corduroy. Such a lovely, nice fabric to stroke. So yeah, that's my first thing I've got cut out this week. Oh, and in terms of sizing on the cuff top, I thought I'd mention it goes from an extra small to an extra large, with the largest size being for a bust of 49 inches. And this is one of those patterns where my measurements all fit in the same size, which is I think quite unusual because I often find my bust measurement is slightly smaller than my waist and hips. My waist and hips are often a size up. But the extra small of this pattern is designed for a bust 32 inches, waist 25.6 inches and hips 36.4 inches, which is pretty much me. So it's quite nice not to have to make any grading adjustments. And it is quite a boxy straight fit top, so I guess it's a bit forgiving probably on the measurements anyway, but I thought I'd mention that. But I'm looking forward to sewing it up. I find the cuff top comes together really quite quickly, so it should be a nice satisfying sew when I get started on that one. And then the other pattern or fabric that I got cut out over the last week or so while I was in the mood for cutting it out, which as I mentioned doesn't happen so often, is a pattern I've been wanting to sew for a while, and I included it on my Make 9 list for this year, which is 9 patterns I want to make this year. And I did a video talking all about those 9 patterns I wanted to sew, and I'll link it up above and in the vlog description bit down below in case you fancy checking that out if you haven't seen it. But it's a pattern from a book that I've had for a couple of years, and I haven't sewn any patterns from that book, which seemed a real shame, and I really wanted to give one a go. And the book is this one here. It's the Breaking the Pattern book by Named Clothing. So I've had this book for a couple of years, and I've leafed through it and admired the patterns for so long. I thought it's really time to try one of them. And I've only sewn one Named Clothing pattern before, which is the Kyolo wrap dress. So I really wanted to try another one and see how I found it. I really like how the Kyolo wrap dress comes together, so I thought it'd be interesting to see if the other patterns come together as nicely. And the pattern that I've cut out, and I've actually started sewing as well, because I was quite excited to get started on once I got it cut out, is this pattern here. It's the Sarast shirt dress. So it's a shirt, I do like a shirt dress pattern, and this one has a few interesting details. The first interesting detail is this little ruffle on the collar, which I think is quite a pretty feature. And it's got this interesting front construction, so there's got a gathered skirt, but down the front there's this sort of flat fronted bit with these 2 panels and the button band. And I thought that's quite an interesting feature, and I was interested to see how that came together and how that feels when I wear it. And it's also got a little yoke and waist darts on the back, and I don't often find you get waist darts on the back of a shirt dress, so I thought that was quite a nice feature too, and interesting to sew all together and see how it comes together. So yeah, I've got it all cut out, and I'll show you the fabric, which you'll have seen already if you watched my spring fabric haul and sewing plans video at the weekend. The fabric I chose is a really pretty cotton lawn by Dashwood Studio. And here it is. It's really lovely and lightweight and silky. It's a really nice cotton lawn. My first time sewing with the Dashwood cotton lawn. And it's got this sort of really light grey base, and then it's got all these little dots on. And actually the colours of the dots are quite similar to the colours of the flecks in my t-shirt I'm wearing today. There's like a maroon and a teal and a light pink, and then some greys too. I thought it was a really pretty print. I don't know how, but I ended up browsing the Minerva website for different Dashwood Studio cotton lawn fabrics. I kind of got lost down a rabbit hole of Dashwood cotton lawns. There's some really pretty ones. It was quite hard choosing one, but I'm really glad I went with this one because I think it's a really pretty print. But yeah, this is the dress I've sewn so far. So I'll show you it. It's quite hard to see with the print on, the details, but here is the top and the back, and it's got the yoke on there. You can see there's like a line across there where the yoke's attached. So I've got the front and back yoke, so I'll just split them so you can see. So yeah, they're on at the moment, and they just need to be sewn together at the top. And there's the back, and you can see there's the back darts that I've added in. There's one, and the other one somewhere over here. So the back darts are in. And then I've got the skirt gathered on now, so you can see here, it's all gathered onto the top, and it takes you all the way around to these front sort of side panels here. So they're attached on and the skirt's all gathered on. And I think the next step is then to attach the flat fronted piece at the front, which had the button bands on. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes together. And it's got sort of like a princess seam here. So there should be some nice shaping, I think, around the front. So I spent quite a while last night getting all the gathers quite nice and even. So I'm quite pleased with how it's coming together so far, and this cotton lawn has been really nice to work with. Really enjoying sewing with it. So that's where I've got to on that one. I'm really enjoying that one, so I'm looking forward to carrying it on and seeing how it comes together and how the fit is, because as I said, I've only made a jersey dress by name before, the Kyolo wrap, so it'll be interesting to see how one of their woven patterns come together and how the fit is. I think I made a size 1 on the bust and then graded out to a size 2 on the waist and hips based on my measurements. So, and then I also adjusted slightly around the armhole to add a little bit more space there, just so it isn't too tight, because I often find a tight armhole a bit restrictive. So we shall see how it comes together. I could have done a toile of it, I guess, but I was really keen to get started on it and just really enjoy the whole process and using the nice fabric. So fingers crossed it will turn out okay. I do need to get some buttons for that one, actually. I just realised I've been a bit forgetful about the buttons recently on recent makes, so I need to think about what colour buttons I want and get some of those for that one. But yeah, I'm looking forward to carrying on with that one. I'll let you know how I get on in future sewing chat videos. So that's what I've been up to on the sewing front over the last couple of weeks. I'm really pleased to have started both those projects, and I'm looking forward to carrying on with them. And I'm hoping later this week I'll have a bit of sewing time so I can carry on with them and then share with you my progress next week in next week's midweek chat. Like I mentioned, I don't think I'll get any sewing done today because the kitchen guy's coming back and I need to go in a moment and clear out a couple of cupboards, get things ready for him to finish off the final few bits there. But it'd be really nice to have that done. But what I'll do now is I'll just pop off and I'll show you my new sewing cupboard in the utility room, which, as I said, I'm quite excited about. And then I'll pop back on and share a couple of other things before I finish up. So I'll see you back here in a moment. So here is my new sewing cupboard, which I'm quite excited about. It's nice to have somewhere to store all of my sewing bits and bobs in, and I managed to get most things in here other than the sewing machine and the overlocker, which is good. So yeah, I'll just show you a few things on the bottom shelf here. I've got this sort of container here which has lots of sort of notions in. It's got buttons and elastics and some ribbons, that sort of thing. I've got my rulers here. This is my main sewing tin I always have out when I'm sewing. It's got my sort of fabric scissors in and my pins, my chalk pencils, all that sort of stuff. That tin here has got my threads in. Got a sellotape dispenser here, which has got a little sticker left over from Christmas my daughter put on it, so it's called Elf. I've got my mug here, which I put all my little scraps of thread and things in when I'm sewing. This little tin here has my pattern weights in. I think I've shown those before, but I'll show you them because I do quite like them. Made them. I used little metal washers and covered them in little leftover scraps of wool. I think I put 3 sort of thinner washers together to make these, and they're quite a nice weight for on fabric. So that's that in there. And the next shelf up, I've got my pressing hams and my clapper. I've got my pinking shears in that nice box there. I've got my foot pedals. I've got a load of tracing paper and interfacing and a couple of other bits like a calculator and my button and flex thingy and my new Clover hot hammer tool. And then on the top shelf, I've got a few boxes up there with random other notions I don't use so often. I've got some swimwear elastic and I've got all my overlocker threads too, and some cords there too. So yeah, that is my sewing cupboard. It's fairly organised at the moment, or maybe it looks like an organised mess, I don't know, but it's quite nice to have it. So I hope you enjoyed seeing inside my new sewing cupboard there. I know it's not a whole sewing room or anything by any means, but it's really nice to have a space that's just for my sewing stuff and I can organise it how I want, and it's quite easy access. And I used to have it all out on a table in the kitchen, so it looked a bit scruffy and cluttered and things would just build up on top of each other, and I think it's going to be a lot more organised in my new cupboard, so I'm quite pleased with it. And I thought I'd mention, I know I pointed out a couple of different tins in the cupboard and I showed you my pattern weights, but if you'd like to have a peek inside maybe my main sewing tin or the things I use on a regular basis when I'm sewing, then let me know in the comments below and I can maybe do like a little tour of my sewing tin as part of one of my future midweek sewing chats if you're interested in that. But I'm really pleased to have that new cupboard. It's quite pleasing to be able to organise all my sewing things and then to be able to see them all, yeah, there together. So yeah, that's my new sewing cupboard. I thought I'd also mention in this video, the other thing I've been doing over the last few weeks when I haven't been doing the midweek sewing chats is I've been working behind the scenes on my entries for Sew Frugal 22. And you probably know about the Sew Frugal challenge already. It's happening here on YouTube and also over on Instagram. And it's a challenge that's being run by Sam, who's Frugalisma, and Rowan, who's the Yorkshire Sew Girl. And I'll link their channels down below. And you have to sew a free pattern using a fabric from your stash. And then this week is the reveal day. So the reveal day is tomorrow, the 31st of March. And everyone is going to be showing what they've made on Instagram. So it's going to be quite exciting. and I've been working on my entries, and I say entries because there's more than one thing that I've made for So Frugal. And I did put a sneak peek of one of the things I've made on Instagram earlier in the week, so I'll include my Instagram account down below in case you fancy checking that out. But yeah, so this Saturday I'm going to be doing a video talking all about my So Frugal entries. I did a couple of hacks of patterns. I'm going to be talking about the hacks I did, and yeah, a bit more about sizing, the patterns, how I found them, all that sort of thing. So I'd love it if you would join me for that video on Saturday, talking all about my So Frugal entries. And again, check out my Instagram tomorrow if you want to see the garments I made. I really enjoyed making them. I'm really happy with them, so I can't wait to share them when the whole reveal day happens tomorrow. So I think that's the last thing I wanted to mention in this video. So thank you very much for watching my midweek sewing chat. It was lovely to be back on here after a couple of weeks away and just have a chat. I hopefully see you on Saturday for my So Frugal video, and then I'm planning to be back again next week for another midweek sewing chat. And as ever, if you've enjoyed this video, I would love it if you would give it a thumbs up. And also, if you're new to my channel and you're interested in hearing more about sewing chats, patterns, pattern hacks, fabrics, all that sort of thing, then please do subscribe to my channel. And if you press the bell icon too, you then will get notified when my future videos come out. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that you have had some crafting time this week too. I do find it so mindful and good for the soul. And I'll hopefully see you again soon. Thanks again. Bye.